Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers, and in this video we've got our full review of the new Saucony Ride 17, an upgraded neutral daily trainer that's designed to be versatile enough to eat a wide range of regular weekly miles from the slower end right up to your up-tempo efforts. Now, one big headline here is that you've got a new Power Run Plus midsole foam in this shoe. That's the same as you'll find on the Triumph 21. And the Run Testers have been busy putting in the miles to see if that makes this a better, cheaper alternative to the Triumph, and where this shoe sits in that busy daily trainer space. So if you want to find out if this is worth your money, watch on for our Saucony Ride 17 review. So quick details then, and the Saucony Ride 17 stack height comes in at 35 mils in the heel, 27 mils in the forefoot for an 8 mil drop. It weighs 10.3 ounces or 293 grams in my UK men's size 8 test shoe. That's about half an ounce heavier than the Triumph 21. Price wise, it's £135 in the UK, $140 in the US. A launch price that's now towards the cheaper end of the daily trainer shelves. So let's give you a quick shoe whip round then. And in the midsole, we've now got that big but not max stack of the livelier Power Run Plus foam. That's the same foam that you'll find in the Triumph 21. The Ride 16, by comparison, had just regular Power Run. Up top, the Ride 17 have an engineered mesh uppers. As ever, Saucony says those have been tweaked to improve breathability, specifically across the toes though. But there's also quite a notable sort of set of perforations down the side here, on the sidewalls, to make them airy. Saucony also says they've improved the midfoot wrap and created better lockdown comfort in the heel for this shoe. There are medium padded heel collars and medium padded gusted tongue there to help with that. There's also quite a stiff heel counter here and a set of heel pulls to help you get the shoes on. Flip them over and we've got a good covering of outsole rubber for grip and durability, kind of in all the right places.
Fit for me in the Ride 17. I'm a size 8 in the UK. This is a size 8. I found it to be a very comfortable shoe. There was a nice bit of space before my big toe in the forefoot. The upper is very comfortable. There's quite a bit of padding on it. Not loads. It's not a massively plush shoe, but there's plenty of it. It's quite comfortable. And I did find that there was plenty of room in the midfoot, but I could still get a nice lockdown fit. So I would stay to my size in the Ride 17. Very comfortable shoe.
Now on fit, I ran in my regular running shoe size, a UK 8.5 if you're interested. Now I found the fit spot on, roomy but not baggy, good heel hold and lockdown across the midfoot. There's enough flex and wiggle room in the toe box. It's good security across the midfoot as well without any restriction. And I would overall recommend going true to size in these shoes.
So the Ride 17 fit me well in my normal running shoe size. I've got a UK 9 here, which is what I've used across Saucony's range for many years, and it fits me perfectly well. Good amount of room in the toe box, good hold around the heel and midfoot. Not a huge fan of the eyelet design on the shoe though, these little almost fabric eyelets. I've ripped one of them straight away, and I'm not someone who's ever done that before with other shoes, so I don't really yank on laces particularly hard, and I feel that maybe they're just a little bit flimsy, so that'd be something to look out for, but overall, no concerns with the fit going with my normal running shoe size.
So then in my run tests, I've now done around 35 miles in the Ride 17 at my usual mix of paces and different terrains, including roads and off-road river paths that were quite muddy and wet and slippy. I've also done a 120-minute long run test too, and I did an all-out treadmill 5k as well. So I've put these shoes through a good range of tests, and it's fair to say that I've enjoyed these shoes a lot. From the moment I put them on, I found they felt natural, easy, disappearing on the foot. I personally think that you can tell quickly that you've got a nicely balanced shoe here the moment you step into them. There's an airiness and a nice roomy flex from the uppers. Your feet have some freedom to breathe, your toes have some room to flex, but they hold well without restricting. As in the Triumph 21, the Power Run Plus foam midsole provides a softness that takes the edge off your landings, but it's not too sinking, it bites back at the right time. There's good immediacy here overall for a cushioned shoe. And along with the rockering speed roll, you get smooth transitions in a shoe that I think has got great clip along across a wide range of paces actually. They're heavier than shoes like the Triumph 21, the Nova Blast 4 and the New Balance 1080 V13, about the same weight as the On Cloud Eclipse. But I don't think that they feel heavy on the foot actually in comparison to some of those. Yeah, there's definitely probably too much weight here to want to pick them over sprightlier shoes for the faster pace efforts. Like, if you're going for an all-out 5k, you probably wouldn't want to use them, but they're generally geared towards more like everything from slow and easy up to marathon pace. But at the same time, I did manage to batter out a sub 25k in them on the treadmill with relative comfort and ease, so they can do that. They're not designed for it, but they handled it okay. So I think there's really good versatility here in this shoe. This is another great shoe for runs where you're not really sure how you're going to run. You know, those runs where you're going to go out and just, well, you've got a plan, you're not training. And I think there's a lot here for new runners or beginners who need enough protection but also want a shoe that can handle a really good range.
I've done 55k in the Saucony Ride 17, using it for a mix of daily training runs. I've done one long run, some easy stuff, and an interval session as well. And overall, I think this is a good shoe. It's not one I've absolutely loved running in myself, but I do think this is a good shoe that will appeal to lots of runners. It's certainly heavier than previous versions of the Ride, and with the slightly softer foam, it feels like a less versatile shoe, I'd say, for me, than the things like the Ride 15, which was the last Ride I tested. It's quite a big shoe on the foot and feels fairly heavy. It's heavier than the Triumph 21, just with all the similarities between the shoes. It is a little bit heavier than the Triumph 21, and it feels a little bit less nimble on the foot because it's also a little bit wider. So I think that really helps when it comes to cushioning and the protective feeling underfoot when you're using it for nice easy runs. But over anything slightly faster or longer, it does feel like a slightly big shoe to me when I was using it. But that extra cushion I think will appeal to lots of people. You've got better outsole coverage here than on the previous versions of the Ride as well. Certainly a shoe that's built to last, good workhorse with that Power Plus foam, which is a good foam. Like, it's stable. We've liked it on the Triumph obviously for several generations. It's a stable foam, it's a comfortable foam, it's not too squishy, it gives you a little bit back. It does mean you can use this as a shoe for faster stuff because you do get a little bit back from that foam, even though it's not very light. And it is a durable foam as well, so there's certainly lots to like about it, and it certainly does deliver a very similar feel to what we have with the Triumph 21. Like, when I was running in both shoes at the same time, there's so much in common between the shoes and how they feel underfoot. Obviously you've got the slightly lower drop on the Ride 17, the slightly higher amount of heel cushioning on the Triumph 21, but in reality you didn't notice them that much on the run. I think the Triumph 21 does feel a bit lighter and nimbler, but it's not a much more versatile shoe, so you'd certainly be using them for similar jobs, and the Ride 17 does a very good job as that cushioned, comfortable workhorse shoe that the Triumph has been for several years. So yeah, it's definitely a shoe that can do a nice range of day training. I think some will find it very versatile and be able to use it for lots of different stuff. For me, it's just a bit too heavy and a bit too weighty for that kind of thing, but as a cushioned, protective cruiser, it does a very good job.
So I've done about 50k in this shoe so far, and I am very pleased with it so far. The Ride range is a series of shoes which I've used in the past. Some versions I've thought were okay. It was a fairly solid daily trainer, but it didn't really do anything that exciting either. It was a sort of a shoe, especially around the Ride 14, 15, where you could take it out, you could do daily runs in it, and it was fine, but it didn't really offer anything of any excitement or any interest. The midsole tended to be a little bit dull for me. It was a pretty lean shoe, so it was pretty good for versatility. You could go out and do a nice comfortable daily run in it, or you could pick up the pace a little bit more, but it wasn't a particularly modern shoe and didn't have many impressive features in it, like new foams or anything like that. The Ride 17 for me is a massive update to the previous versions, and it's now become a shoe that I've really enjoyed testing. I've done a few different runs in this, so those vary between sort of 9-kilometer easy runs up to a track session, which I did in it the other day. And what I found about this shoe is that thanks to this new Power Run Plus midsole foam, it is a significantly improved shoe for versatility, for daily runs. Basically, it just does a lot more than what I was getting from the Ride previously. I had used the previous Ride for a variety of runs, including races and track sessions, and I found it was a bit of a slog. The midsole foam, it didn't really do a lot. I found it was quite hard to get a nice, consistent, fast pace in it, so it wasn't great for versatility. This shoe, I think, is a lot better. That Power Run Plus midsole foam just has a lot more to it. It's a little bit bouncier, it's a little bit more responsive, and it just feels like you've got a bit more energy in the shoe, which is a massive plus point. When I was using it for track, despite the fact that it's not a light shoe, it does feel like you can really pick up the pace nicely in it and just really train at a higher daily rate. I'd probably go as far as to say that if you're a runner that's looking for a nice all-round shoe where you want to be able to go out and do your training sessions in, but also maybe even want to race in it. I'm not saying for like if you want to go for a sub-3 marathon or anything like that, but if you're the sort of runner that just wants a nice solid one shoe to do everything and you want to cross the finish line and be able to go a bit faster, it feels now like a shoe that can do that. And that it's all down to that Power Run Plus midsole foam, I think, which is the same foam you get in the Triumph as well. In the Triumph, it's slightly different. It's a little bit softer in the Triumph for me. I think there's a little bit more energy in the Triumph. This is a little bit firmer. The other thing I'd say about the shoe as well is that midsole foam, that Power Plus midsole foam, is very stable as well. Actually really reminds me of the Saucony Tempest. Very similar ride to both those shoes. You can't really tell the Tempest is a stability shoe. It just delivers like this, really. It's for me, it's a very, very comparable shoe with the Tempest, and I'm a massive fan of the Tempest. So yeah, the only other thing I would say, the outsole is fantastic. Really good outsole on this. Good grip. I've been out on the wet quite a lot in Brighton, and it's been absolutely fine. So overall, I'm very, very impressed with this shoe. I think it's a solid daily shoe. Lovely midsole foam, and yeah, just well worth a look considering the price.
So Saucony clearly has plans to revamp its lineup in general. I imagine we'll see a big update on the Triumph 22 that maybe brings in something like Power Run PB foam to separate it from the Ride 17, because this is a very similar shoe, and it is good that you're now getting the best features of the Triumph 21 in a much cheaper shoe with the Ride 17. You've got that Power Run Plus midsole. It is comfortable, it's protective. It's not actually as versatile as the Triumph 21 because it is a bit heavier, I find. I do prefer the feel of the Triumph 21 very slightly myself, but they are very, very similar shoes for sure, and the Ride 17 is cheaper. It'll be the one to go for out of those two. I think compared to previous versions of the Ride, you have got a different shoe here, I think. This is more of a cushion daily trainer, a comfort first shoe. I think the Ride 15 and I think the 16 was similar. Had a firmer ride for sure, but I think was a more versatile shoe as a result. You had that firmer feeling underfoot. It was a lighter shoe. I did enjoy using that for a mix of runs, whereas the Ride 17 I'd see much more as a cushion shoe for easy runs myself, but I do think it will work as a versatile shoe for lots of runners. Like the Triumph 21, I think it's an excellent shoe for new runners. Pick it up at a lower price than the Triumph 21. You can use it for a bit of everything. This is maybe a shoe that I think will appeal to more runners. It's in line with what we see from most brands when it comes to cushion daily trainers compared to previous versions of the Ride, which were maybe just a touch too firm for lots of people. Other options you could get around this kind of price, I think it is quite similar to the Nike Pegasus 40 all round. I think I probably slightly prefer the feel of the Ride 17, but it's pretty close between them. They're both solid shoes, will last a long time, do a mix of stuff quite well, but aren't that versatile in terms of how they perform at faster speeds. There's also the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, which is obviously a big favourite of mine, which is a lighter, more versatile shoe, slightly livelier foam in that shoe compared to the Ride 17. The Velocity Nitro 3 is likely to come out soon, so that might see some really good deals on the two, but the Ride 17 is a slightly more built-up protective shoe, I'd say, and especially if you're a heavier runner, I think you'll get a bit more cushion and protection from the Ride 17. All in all, I think this is a good shoe. I think this is one that's really to my taste, but I do think this is probably a good update for the line. I think it will appeal to lots of runners now. It's nice to have all those characteristics from the Triumph in a cheaper shoe. I just didn't personally love the ride feel of it myself. I found it just a little bit heavy and big on the foot, and the Triumph 21 even was a bit nimbler in that regard, but the Ride 17 I think is the one to go for from Saucony's range if you are looking for a cushion shoe now, because it is so much cheaper than the Triumph and so similar. But if you want a lighter, nimbler shoe, then maybe an older version of the Ride, or see what happens with the Triumph next year.
So my verdict on the Saucony Ride 17 is that it's a really good improvement on the previous versions. The midsole foam, the Power Plus midsole foam, is significantly better than what was in the shoe before. It's now elevated the shoe to be a solid daily shoe that is quite versatile as well. Good for running faster, good for solid, consistent daily runs. Probably a good option if you're looking for something to do all of your running in, especially considering the price is significantly lower than some of the very expensive shoes that are out at the moment. So it's a great, solid workhorse daily trainer that is really versatile. Well worth taking a look at now, and I wouldn't have said that about the previous Ride versions, because I think they were just really shoes that ticked some boxes but didn't really do anything interesting. Now I think it's a shoe that does interesting stuff and is well worth trying if you want either a great daily training for your rotation, or you're just looking for one solid shoe that can do a lot of your runs.
Now, I said it in the first run video, and after many more miles in the Ride 17, I've not changed my mind. Saucony has a very good shoe here, in my opinion. There's excellent disappearing comfort, a really good ride that balanced cushion landings with rolling response, and a bit of springy energy. For me, it's one of those shoes that feels natural straight out of the box, very easy to run in. It's not totally effortless, but it's just very happy to roll around in, whether you're moving slow and easy or you're pushing things slightly more up tempo. It just feels natural. Again, I'll use that word again. It coped well with my marathon pace miles. It was protective enough for easy recovery plods as well, and it handled that fast 5k that I did. For me, this has all the hallmarks of a very versatile, fantastic all-rounder. It's been a while since I enjoyed a shoe straight out of the box quite like I enjoyed this one. The Triumph 21 was one of the others that springs to mind, or I really love the Speed Tree. People will know that if they're regular watchers of the channel. And overall, I think this represents really good value as a workhorse daily trainer. I personally would choose it over things like the Gel Nimbus 25 or the Nova Blast 4 or the 1080 V13. But that's maybe because, generally speaking, I think I prefer a slightly lower stack, or at least a more compact shoe. A shoe doesn't feel quite so hulking great on the foot. So, yeah. So there you have it. That's been our review of the Ride 17. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you liked it enough to want more, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to hear about when new reviews land on the channel. If you're after a daily trainer, I'm popping our pick of the best dailies up on screen about now. Go check that out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We really appreciate you spending your time with us, and we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. Happy running, everyone.